AJ, is this your original stuff?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Oh, is this your original? Is this all you doing this?
Is this my slide deck? Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. I just want to know if it was yours personally. Okay, thank you.
Oh, he'll share it with us all. All right, go ahead and go.
All right. So let's talk about the fundamental of edging. So as we've been doing in the past, we've been seeing what the reference manual, what the manual says. And what does the manual say? The manual says we control edge angles through a combination of inclination and angulation. And probably not going to say much more than that, because most of you have been with us for the last at least 2 years, if not the last year, and we've been harping on a lot of this throughout those meetings. So let's talk about it from, let's say, a level 1 ski instructor or a level 2, beginning level 2 ski instructor. So in simple terms, and this question is mainly to just stimulate some conversation, stimulate some thought, just get those brain cells, those neurons firing, get those synapses moving. In simple terms, what is your understanding of this fundamental? So maybe another way to ask the question is, if you were describing this in non-technical terms to somebody that stops you, I don't know, say in the cafeteria, in the lunchroom, what would be some of the things that you would say to them that describe this fundamental? And I'll just throw it open as sort of an open question to everyone.
Tipping
Yep.
your skis.
So I guess that begs the slightly larger question, and I'm glad you said that. That begs the slightly larger question: in what plane largely do the movements occur? So if you're talking about tipping, in what plane would you?
Lateral.
I think that's horizontal.
I'm kind of looking at your next slide there.
Lateral.
And I'm
Frontal
gonna
plane.
guess that it probably says, you're probably looking at the frontal plane, aren't you?
That's the level 1 answer.
Yeah.
Frontal is fore and aft.
No,
Side to side.
sagittal is fore and aft. Frontal is lateral, and then horizontal is rotation.
Right, so frontal plane splits the body into the
Front and
front, the
back.
back, the abdomen, and the back.
Right, 2 hemispheres, front part and the back part.
Wait, say that again. We're talking about the horizontal plane.
Well, horizontal plane is the orbital plane, which divides it from top to bottom. This one divides it from the front and the back. Kind of splits you right down the middle as you move side to side.
Goes from one ear to the other and through your whole body.
Oh, so of course, the vertical plane is the one that goes from side to side.
Yeah,
Because
the
it splits you
sagittal.
to left and right.
Yeah, sagittal. plane.
Sagittal.
The sagittal.
The sagittal and the frontal are both vertical planes.
Here, go ahead and show that slide, AJ.
What? Oh,
Keep wanting to click on it and I can't.
no, you
haven't
can't.
moved. You have to
So-
move your slides if
So
you want.
I will show you, but I'm not going to get there just yet.
Okay.
Okay, because So,
I just wasn't sure of the answer. We said it occurs in the frontal plane, and then I didn't know which one we call the frontal plane.
okay, so do we all agree that it's largely the frontal plane?
Yes,
I'm not so sure. I think it's, yes, frontal, but I also think I am fore and aft, or more fore, right?
Oh.
So I think it's
So-
maybe a combination.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I asked the question this way. Largely, in what plane do the movements occur?
Mhm.
Well, then edging is probably on the sagittal. Because it's side to side.
I think a visual would help, AJ.
Okay. So I'm going to jump ahead. And just say, and if we look at it from the frontal plane, if we're looking at it from a front view, Rebecca, does this change your answer?
I'm not
We're
seeing.
still
the
seeing the
spine.
title slide.
Oh,
You haven't
It's-
moved the slides.
I'm moving the slides. You're not seeing them move?
No,
No.
No.
Wow.
Hey, we're
Okay.
all in agreement.
Wow. Okay. I'm sorry then. I was showing a bunch of slides.
Oh, well, thank you for showing them, but we're not seeing them.
there
Now
we
we are.
go.
There we go.
Okay, let me stop the share and let me reshare it again. Okay, now. Technical difficulties. Okay, so that was the title. Can you see that
Yeah.
slide?
Yes.
Yeah. Cover
Okay.
slide.
So that's got a picture of a guy carving. Can you
Nope.
see that?
Nope, we don't see that.
We saw it earlier and then you know, maybe you need to, I
Okay.
don't know, show slides, because right now you're,
Okay, I'm in-
you're having like the work screen. I don't know if that makes a difference.
so I'm showing it in slideshow mode. Let me do this.
Did you share your screen?
Yep, I stopped it and I reshared it. Share
seeing-
screen again.
We're seeing you instead of your screen.
There we go.
There
Okay,
you go.
now
Yeah.
we are.
Okay, so now if I put that in full screen mode,
Try
can you,
that.
can you see that in full screen?
No. We're seeing it in your work mode with like the future slides on the side. But we're seeing the next slide.
Okay,
We're seeing, what does the fundamental say?
okay. And if I put that, what does the fundamentals, I now just put that into slideshow mode. So in other words, it's full screen for me.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you see?
I only see, we still just see the work mode.
I wonder why the heck that's doing that. Okay, I don't know. I'm gonna leave it. I don't know why it's not working that. Okay, let me just crank it up a little bit then. And let me do this. And maybe that'll be a little bit better for you.
Cool.
Okay. So, you know, we talked about this. What does the fundamental say in the book? Combination of inclination and angle. We control our edge angles through a combination of inclination and angulation.
Mhm.
This was the slide I was trying to show. And Jerry Ann said tipping. So that begged the question, in what plane do the movements largely occur?
I'm still gonna say the frontal plane.
And I'm gonna say the sagittal.
And I'm going to say a combination of both.
And so I'm gonna say sagittal, and that's why, again, that's why I said largely. I'm going to say sagittal plane with some movement in the frontal plane,
Hmm.
okay? And then,
Sagittal plane, that's fore and aft movements. And frontal plane is lateral movements.
No, it's just the opposite. Frontal plane is fore and aft.
No,
No, I don't think so.
the frontal plane is lateral movements. Sagittal plane is movements fore and aft.
So the body slides along that plane. So the sagittal plane, the skull is sliding front to back. As you go to the frontal plane, the head is going side to side. How I understand them. I don't have the technical manual in front of me, but
so
I can get it.
No,
Yeah,
frontal plane is like front and back.
mhm,
Sagittal plane is left and right.
it divides the body
It
into it. But
divides the body into two
the-
halves
the mo-
vertically.
the movements are along the plane. So the body stays split. in
Oh, I
half
see what you
front-
mean.
By the frontal plane as it slides side to side.
Yeah, here in the
Fore and
tech-
aft, the sides are still divided by the frontal or by the.
Oh,
center.
okay.
Does that make sense?
in the technical manual, it says the frontal plane divides the body into front and back halves. Lateral movements will occur in this plane. Inclining to edge your skis and moving sideways to shift away from one ski to the other are examples of edge control movements in the frontal plane. So we move this way.
Are you moving, Gumby?
I am moving.
Yeah, I can't see you.
I'm over here.
okay,
It's raining. Itsy bitsy spider. Still see me? No, all right.
Yeah.
Had to go get some more MA juice. Cheers.
okay.
So
So
anyway,
we're
Yeah.
agreeing that the movement is in the frontal plane.
yes,
So you had said it occurs in the frontal plane with some debate. And then I have notes which says largely occurs in sagittal plane with some help from the frontal plane. Do I have that backwards?
I think it's
I
back.
think, yeah, I think we're agreeing from the technical manual that the movement largely occurs in the frontal plane with some movement in the sagittal plane.
Okay. And we're describing the sagittal plane as left to right and the frontal plane as fore and aft in broad terms.
Well, what we're saying is that the sagittal plane divides the body into left side and right side.
Mhm.
And the frontal plane divides the body into front and back.
Okay.
And if the center of mass is a point, the center of mass is going to move along that plane in 2 dimensions.
That's a good way to put it.
Mhm. Makes sense.
Yeah,
And in this picture that I have here, that center of mass is the intersection of the 3 planes.
Mhm. Athletic stance, it looks like to me.
axial. I've never heard it referred to as axial.
That's in Lemaster's book that way, isn't it, AJ? Is that where you got that?
Where did I get this one? No, I don't think I got this one from Lemasters. I think where I got this one was, it might be from the New Zealand ski instructors
That's it.
manual.
PSIA is horizontal plane, but I've seen the axial before, and New Zealand sounds right because I've looked at some of their stuff as well.
Yeah, I've also heard it called the hemispherical and orbital plane too. But that's neither, I'm sorry, equatorial or orbital. Hemispherical is also another, is also like
Oh, yeah,
the orbital plane.
Did you get that from Tom Gelly work? Because he would be using NZIA.
No, it's just yoga instructors had to like do that thing where, and that's how they described it, was orbital and sagittorial and hemispherical.
And Gordon, if you want this, or if anybody wants it, I can post the PDF from the New Zealand ski instructors, from which I shamelessly stole this.
Oh, please do.
Okay, I'll just remind me at the end and I'll post it into or I'll give it to you for your Dropbox, either way.
Yeah, anything that you got to share, please do.
Yep.
I shamelessly steal stuff. I have gigabytes of stuff I steal.
The best way.
I don't have all of Tom Gelly's videos, but I have almost all of them.
Yeah, I bought a membership and I've been watching those this week.
I've also stolen Riley McGashin's stuff too. So
Hey, Gumby, I belong to Tom Gelly as well, but is there a way of downloading all his videos? I don't think so, is there?
no, there's no way to download it. What you do instead is if you use Windows G as you're playing the video, if you use Windows G, it opens up a recorder and you can record it to your computer that way.
Wow.
But you didn't hear me.
Where is Tom Gelly's videos? Are they on YouTube?
Yeah.
The website's called Big Picture Skiing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're on his Tom Gelly's
Yeah,
site.
he's a subscription site, but brilliant stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you want really, really in-depth biomechanics, oh my God, he's
He's
off
good.
the charts.
He's
But
actually too good.
you don't
Yeah,
need
he's
to
almost too-
subscribe to it. You know, there's stuff that's free.
There's a lot more on the subscription side.
I see.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Oh no, it's amazing stuff.
It's actually overwhelming. There's so much of it. And it's all good.
I have 71 videos I've recorded.
So when we talk about tipping, when we talk about angulation, when we talk about edging, what joints do we typically think are involved in this fundamental? And I'm just gonna say that I'm not sure I fully agree with some of the literature that I was looking at least. But typically, what are the things that the joints that we think about when we talk about edging?
Well,
Tipping
it
our
would be
ski.
ankles, knees, and hips.
Yes, yes.
And whole body.
Well, see, that's the thing that, Chuck, that's where I disagree, because
It's
Not with
really
you.
a joint.
with the literature, because the literature says, oh yeah, we tip from our lower body, right? We tip our knees, we tip our ankles, but really, I mean, look at this picture. Isn't there movement occurring in the spine?
Yes.
Isn't there tipping occurring in a little bit in here in the shoulders? Aren't you keeping your head either tipped or upright? So I don't agree that, at least some of the literature I was reading to prepare this, that the edging comes from the ankle, excuse me, from the lower half of the body. I think the whole body's involved.
And I would 100% agree with you.
Right.
I think the functional part from the angulation is definitely ankles, knees, and hips, and inclination is whole body. But you can't ignore the fact that your thoracic spine is hinged in a way that it can move in 360 to 360 degrees. Where the lumbar is the part that doesn't really bend that much. So that'd be like the lower back. But the upper back, we can move that all kinds of crazy directions. And we can get inclination and angulation out of that too.
Well, I guess the question that I have on this is not whether I disagree with what you're saying, AJ, because I do agree.
Oh, this is a conversation, man.
Yeah, no, I get it. But without the ankles, knees, and hips, it's really, really hard. And that is, I think, the essence of tipping. Not that others, things don't take place, but it's kind of like they're the 10%ers where the other ones are the 33%ers, if that makes any sense.
So you mentioned a term. I'm going to come back to it in a few slides. Okay. Let me just come back to it in a few slides. You don't think the lumbar spine moves as much? What if you're trying to keep your hips level? Isn't that mostly coming from, and I'm asking the question because for me, I think of it's mostly coming from the lumbar when I'm keeping my hips level, or trying to keep my hips level.
If you're trying to keep your hips level and you're still angulating, you're angulating from the ball joints of your femur bones,
Yeah, the hip socket.
the hip sockets. Oh yeah. But
Yes,
yes,
my
you have
hips.
movement in the lumbar support, but it is mostly there for supporting the upper body over the lower body.
I can feel my femur rotating in my hip socket, right?
Right.
I can feel that. But if I'm trying to keep my hips level, I'm also feeling it in my lower spine.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree with you. You can move your lumbar support, but what you can't do is compromise its ability to support by moving it in a way that it's not allowed. You know what I mean? You have to be careful with your lumbar, because it's really meant to support the weight of your body, not really meant to do like crazy angulation. But your thoracic is the upper part of your spine is a part that you can move in lots of different directions, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But when you're angulating your hips, that's really originating from the ball joint without doing a lot of this or this. Again, I gotta get back a little bit so as you can even see this thing. But instead it's moving more like this. But no, I agree with you in a lot of ways. I mean, there are things that our bodies do to create angles. And we can't ignore the spine, the upper part or the lower part.
Yep. So what does the technical manual tell us? The technical manual says that edge control is the ability to tip a ski onto its edge and adjust that angle, the angle between the base of the ski and the snow. And I just started reading Ron LeMaster, and he's got some, I think it's chapter 2, where he's got some really good information about that, about the various angles, and that's one of them, the angle between the base. I mean, he's talking about the angle, essentially roll, pitch, and yaw. The angle of the ski this way, the angle of the ski this way, and the angle of the ski this way. And that kind of was a little bit, Gordon, of what you touched upon where we're talking really about the almost the penetrative force into the snow.
Hmm.
That angle between the base of the ski and the snow, and we've all experienced, has a significant impact on both the speed and the direction of our travel. And I'll touch a little bit more about the direction of travel and how that angle comes into play. The technical manual also says that skiers must move laterally to balance against the forces that act upon the skis when tipped on edge. And again, we talked about that last week and the week before when we were talking about balancing on that outside ski. You have to move as that big marble pushes up against us. When those skis are tipped on edge, you need to be able to balance against those forces, right? And how do we do it? We were talking about, I think Gumby, you just mentioned this, that degree of counter rotation. Getting our mass in the transition of the turn, moving towards the direction of the new turn. And finally, the technical manual says that there are two terms that are related to movements relative to the skill of edging, and those are inclination and angulation. So what does good edging look like? Don't know if this is gonna work. This is from, you can't see that video that's playing right now, correct?
No.
No.
Okay, so let me do this. Let me stop sharing that. And let me share this. Can you see that title screen of the video?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
just to let you know, I've embedded this video into the slide. So when you receive the slide deck, all you have to do is click on there's a picture, and then underneath it is a link to the video, the embedded video. All you have to do is click. I tried to merge the two, but I couldn't quite get it to work, but. So let's just pause for a minute to discuss what we just saw here. So the things we just talked about in the previous couple of slides, you can't see the upper body, but let's ignore it for just a second here. To get the skis to tip on edge, again, we're talking about joints in the lower half of the body. We're talking about the ankles, we're talking about the knees, we're talking about the hips.
Mhm.
I bet you if the cameraman had zoomed out, we would see this person also having a degree of bend in their spine to balance against that downhill ski a little bit, particularly in the static position. And I mean, these are the things we teach our students, right? When we're teaching edging, we tell them, hey, Roll your ankles up the hill. Tip your knees. Pour the water out of the boots. All of those little tricks that we use, we get them to get into this position. Rolling those ankles, getting those skis a little bit up on edge. Wanted to find a good spot. It's kind of hard to see. Let's see if we can find a good one. Right about there. I don't know if you saw them, caught that little movement. Whoever this is, does anybody know who this is, by the way?
No, I can't say that I do.
I don't know if you just caught that little movement, but the last slide, the last bullet point was you need to start to move laterally. I don't know if you caught that slight movement of this person moving slightly, their center of mass moving slightly downhill to balance against those forces now being generated. Come on, share. So that's what good edging looks like. If we could only all edge so beautifully. Come on. So I may modify this slide slightly, but this was that slide I showed. So what does it look like from a frontal plane? And this may be also from New Zealand, Gordon. I think I stole it from one of the New Zealand sites. But what does it look like from a head-on view? What does that tipping? Because we just saw it from a almost a side view, but what does it look like from a frontal view? And you know that here this person has their ankles tipped significantly into the snow. The knees are tipped. The hips are tipped a bit. It looks like, at least to me, that those hips are not parallel. You know, I think this person is so skilled that they can balance in this particular manner. But this is what good angles look like from a frontal view. What I want to modify is I didn't have inclination in here. Well, we do have a degree of inclination. So those hips and those shoulders are inclined.
You don't think they're parallel?
To the snow surface, I would say not. Right? Again, if you talk about so New Zealand has that concept of the 5 equals, the equal angles. You know, remember when we draw our reference angles from a frontal view? The knees, the ankles, the hips, the shoulders. What's the 5th one? 1, 2, 3, 4. I
Ankles?
forget what the 5th one is.
Ankles?
Should all be equal and parallel to the angle of the slope. 3,
Hmm.
I
4.
don't think they're supposed to be parallel to the slope. They're supposed to be parallel to each other.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, clearly he's showing like I'm gonna guess it's probably a medium radius turn, but there's no possible way with the forces he's generating that he's gonna be able to keep those shoulders, ankles, hips, and knees in a parallel relationship to the hill. That's just gonna be impossible. The forces would just force him to explode.
Okay, I've always been told that those things should be parallel to the slope of the hill.
No, I think to each other.
To each
Okay.
other. Definitely to each other. That's the ideal. But yeah, I mean, we try to keep our shoulders parallel to the hill so we can create angles, but that's kind of like that idea of using your poles and keeping your body straight down the hill. So your body needs to be straight down the hill until it isn't, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's a great reference, but it's not really ideal because it doesn't work all the time.
And the angle that your shoulders and hips turns at depends on your speed. If you're
It really does.
doing 80 miles an hour in a downhill course, you don't want a lot of angles, and you're generating enough centripetal force that you can incline quite a lot.
Yeah,
Yes.
you have to resist those forces. So if you try to put angles in there, that's weakening your position against those forces.
But then on the other hand, if you're skiing moguls, you want to tip at the knees a lot and keep the upper body very vertical and still so you can make rapid turns back and forth. But you can't take that same body action up to 60 miles an hour or more.
I mean, this is like, to me, is like the perfect example of what a slalom turn looks like. This is Riley, isn't it? This looks a lot like Riley.
I thought it was Riley as well. I'm not quite sure if it was him, but, and I kind of thought it was, but I think I stole this from one of the New Zealand sites.
Yeah, I think he's based out of either Japan or Austria right now.
Is he the one that went to Japan for the ski
I think he's in
instructor
Austria.
competition?
He's where?
Is he the one that went to Japan for the ski instructor competition? And
Yeah, I mean, he
First-
and what the hell's the other guy's name? The one who's got the podcast. They both do that kind of stuff. Technical skiing
Mhm.
with Takeshi Morikawa or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
The guy's supposed to be the most technical skier in the world. But they all do that kind of thing.
So I think, who was it? Jeff, were you talking about banking
Yeah.
earlier?
I was a banker, so maybe.
So again, this question is just stimulation. What's the difference, mental stimulation? What's the difference between angulation and banking? I think we kind of all intuitively know what it is, where angulation is movement in the lateral movement of the joints. Banking has no lateral movement of the joints. It's just the whole body involved in tipping into the hill or away from the hill, whichever direction. It's a whole body movement. It's not the lateral movement of the joints.
It's
Yes.
not ringing a bell, but that's okay.
So it would be like this.
That would be banking, yeah.
That
Yeah.
would be banking. Now, there are opportunities for you to bank. And there are some debate about where this happens. I think the current debate among the top skiers is, do we bank going, or do we incline before we angulate? Or do we angulate before we incline? And I don't think it's very clear. I'm looking for somebody to kind of clear it up. I know Tom Gelly is definitely more into the
He's the-
incline before angulate. Because his idea is that we incline to create edge angles and we angulate to manage pressure.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
It does. But I mean, that's one man's opinion. I really need verification on that. So I'm just
Well, I
tossing.
just gave it to you.
Wait, can you say that again? We incline to create edge angles?
Yeah, we incline to create edge angles at the top of the, I'm talking about at the top of the turn. We incline to create edge angles. I'm sorry, we incline to create edge. And then as the pressure builds, we angulate against that pressure to manage the pressure.
And as the pressure decreases and we slow down at the end of the turn, as you
Yeah,
you become more concerned with directing pressure, penetrating pressure to the outside ski.
Yeah,
Okay, Gumby, would you mind just saying that one more time?
all right.
We incline to create edge angles.
We
Got
create,
it.
at the top of the turn, we incline to create edge angles. And then as the pressure builds, we angulate to manage that pressure.
And that makes a lot of sense because you incline, and if you keep inclining, you're going to tip over. So you need to kind of straighten out and create those angles in order to be able to remain vertical,
Yes.
or let's just say standing.
And I think I've heard JF Boulier say something along the same lines. Also,
And Ron LeMaster used to talk about the toppling to start the turn.
yeah,
So that
well,
is
that's
inclination.
That's definitely a Tom Gelly thing for the last 18 months. He's been talking about toppling a lot.
Yeah.
As a way to create edge angles and to get the body moving to the inside of the turn. So yeah, then the toppling part is definitely part of that inclination without really creating much angulation. But I think that's, again, this is all a function of speed and turn shape and intent.
Sure.
You're going really slowly, you don't need to incline that much. You know, because there's not many forces you have to resist. So if you're doing like basic parallels, yeah. I mean, I think we've all watched videos of Jonathan Ballou angulating before he inclines as a way to create edges before he starts moving down the hill. But he's doing it because he's not going very fast.
Mhm.
And these guys, I mean, this picture of Riley, he's clearly flying. I mean, this guy is, he has got one speed, which is 1,000,000, you know, so he's resisting forces. So I don't think it applies all the time, but again, like I said, there's some debate that's happening right now. I know that's because I'm in the middle of it in my own ski area at a winter park about which is more important, inclination or angulation.
But I
Yes.
think that's like a chicken and egg question because they really,
Yes.
I mean, if anything, I'd say angulation is more important because inclination by itself, angulation includes inclination to some degree.
Yeah.
And if you have inclination without angulation, you're just going to be total body movement. It's going to involve the shoulders, and essentially you keep doing it, you're going to just topple over.
And I completely agree. And that's been kind of my argument is if you try to angulate without any inclination, you're going to do kind of that reverse C-shape thing at low speeds. And how do you adjust pressure to the outside ski that way? You know, you create some weird angles, some weird body positions that way. And, you know, we're trying to get rid of our inner weirdnesses. We're not trying to add to them. So, you know, again, that's, these are all arguments we can make, and that might be a debate for for part 2. Is to talk
Mhm.
about, hey, you know, what is
So
important here?
going back to this slide,
Uh-huh.
what is the difference between angulation and banking or inclination?
So,
Well, yeah, go ahead, JJ. You said it beautifully.
so here, all I'm talking about, and I do want to get into the in-depth of toppling and all of these other things, because really what we're talking about is a level 1, right? Level 1, level 2, beginning level 2. What I simply wanted to just point out is, because we've seen it, and I'll jump ahead. Look at the ineffective slide, right? We've seen that. All I simply wanted to say is angulation is the lateral movement of joints to get the skis on edge, and banking is that whole body movement with straight joints and into or away from the slope of the hill, the pitch of the hill. That's all I simply wanted to
Yeah, so
talk
this
about
would
here.
this would be banking. This would be angulation or inclination,
Mhm.
where the body begins to bend. This is where the body does not bend.
In the book, Jeff, it describes banking as a movement of relatively straight body leaning toward the inside of the turn, typically with insufficient pressure on the outside ski. So the edge cannot grip the snow effectively.
Yeah,
Yep.
most definitely.
Yeah, that second part that you just mentioned, I think is critical. Insufficient pressure on the outside ski.
Right. I mean, we saw
Exactly.
that in
That's
Gordon's
edging, right?
videos. We saw that in the videos that we were looking at earlier this year.
Mhm.
Divergence. All the pressure is on one ski. The other
Mhm.
ski is just either going along for the ride or tracking in some weird manner.
Right. Not sufficient amount of pressure to make it bend.
Mhm.
Speaking of which, why is edging important? So there are a number of reasons why we might want to edge. The primary one being we want to turn the ski, right?
Mhm.
A ski on edge. I mean, just think of the modern ski design. The skis are hourglass shape. If we turn them up on their side, they circumscribe part of an arc, right? So
Mhm.
the skis want to turn if we put them up on an edge. A ski on edge can bend in an arc, causing the ski to turn. Look at the red line in that picture. The more it's on edge, the higher it's up on edge, and the more pressure you have on it, the narrower the radius of that arc, and you get a tighter turn.
That makes sense.
Right? So that's probably the primary reason we want to edge. It's an efficient way to turn our skis. Edging is also important for other movements, right? It's important for a forward movement. It's important for sideways or lateral movements. And it's important for blending. Edges get important when we blend those two movements, a forward and a lateral movement, right? So think of sliding on a cat. Think of sliding straight down a bunny hill. When we're teaching our students that first gliding run, or we're doing it ourselves in a demo, edging is important where we want to keep those edge skis flat. Or maybe we want to tip them slightly and bend away from somebody that's in our path. Right? In terms of that lateral movement, edging is important when we want to control that lateral rate of descent. And we can do that through how much edging we have, the degree of our edge angle, right? Side slips, traverses across the hill, where we're feathering it down the hill. All of that is important in that lateral movement. When we blend these two movements together, we can have a skidded turn where we control that shape of the turn, whether it's a more rounded or a more teardrop shape through our edge angles, and thus controlling the rate of descent as well. Right? Just think about these big mountain skiers, right? You've seen these people on the hills in Alaska and Alaska and places like that where, or gosh, what's that French guy? I'm blanking on him. Not Chouinard. What the heck is his name?
Oh, you're talking about Tuve or Sauvex?
Yeah, Candide.
Candide Sauvex?
Yeah,
Guy's
like
amazing.
people like Candide, they're cooking down things that are almost 45 degrees, right? And they're controlling their rate of descent and the shape of their turn through the edging that's both forward and lateral in nature. So in this higher level skiing, we often blend that blend is often intentional. And it happens to different extents in different phases of the turn. In that big mountain skiing, I mean, I did it myself at Whiteface. What we were doing is in the powder, we were smearing the top of the turn in the looser snow. And then once we got our skis to hook up, our edge angles increased at the bottom of that initiation, the later phase of the initiation of the turn, and through the shaping phase, and then flattened out again in the finish phase. So in higher level skiing, these things are intentional, where we blend the two. We play with the edge angles to get what we want, the performance we want. I had to throw that one in there.
Oh,
Bad joke.
oh, oh my God.
You know, keep your day job.
I-
Come on, nobody else had a joke in their slide decks.
No, it's a good
Add
one.
that to my list. Oh my God, that one's awful.
I like it.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Let's see. So how do we edge our skis? Again, we were talking about the joints when we were talking about which joints are involved. Here, they're showing two of the major joints involved: hip angulation and knee angulation. Those are the two major players. And again, I'm going to show this video. And let me pause and share, stop that share, and share this. There we go. And off we go. So that was a pretty clear example of examples of knees and hips tipping to get the skis up on edge. So that's how do we edge our skis? We talked a little bit about when we edge. I will say that edging depends on our intention and it depends upon the conditions, right? I've myself have fallen into the trap that, oh, we've always got to edge our skis. Well, try edging your skis in powder. It's a bit hard, isn't it?
Mhm.
Right? So I've slowly broken myself out of that habit. But again, as I mentioned 2 slides ago, it depends on what our intentions are. Right? For if we wanted to make purely carved turns, the tip of our ski cuts a groove into the snow, right? The tip of the ski leads the way. Jeff, this was the thing that I was mentioning about what plane.
Mhm.
This is, to me, a secondary plane. Our center of mass is moving forward. Our ankles are bent, right? The ski tip cuts a groove into the snow, and the rest of the ski tracks along that groove that you've now started with the tip, right? And again, to get there, you need to have that forward pressure at the start of the turn. To be a purely carved turn, right? And you got to continue moving forward. I mean, we've all taken an exam where we've had to do railroad tracks. That's it. What are these effective edging movements? So Chuck mentioned when we looking at picture of Riley in the red outfit, skis tip on edge way early in the turn, right? To be effective, skis tip early onto an edge. So the rest of the ski can start that groove, that rest of the ski body can track along that groove that now has been cut. The skiers using that foragonal movement of the feet, what we call foragonal, the diagonal, the lateral movement of the feet to, and hips and legs to engage and release the ski. Hook them up. You move across, center of mass moves across the ski towards the direction of the new turn. Those edges release and re-engage on the initiation of the next turn. All of this should be happening in a smooth movement, like we just saw in the video. There's no engage, pause, re-engage, pause, engage. It's one flowing movement. And again, we talked about how do you get that flow? This goes back to Gordon's. You've got to be able to manage the pressure. You've got to be able to balance on that outside ski. And that helps us get that smooth skiing with flow. Allows those edges to be released and re-engaged in the new turn in one smooth movement. We've hammered on this idea of the shins moving forward and laterally to the boot cuff. JF Bolio has a great video. I think he was doing a training session in Whistler where he talks about this. Worth watching. It's kind of a neat thing, that neat way he describes it.
Who is that, AJ?
I'm sorry?
Who was that again?
It was JF Bolio,
Yeah, boy, yeah.
Canadian Ski Instructor Association, CSIA. And then the knees, ankles, hips show appropriate angles as skis are tipped. And those are held through the turn. Again, we were talking about this when we were talking about that picture with Riley. And how all 5 or all 4 of the reference angles were the same. So those were effective. We've seen those. We just saw the video of it. But what about ineffective? Ineffective edging movements. The ski engages late in the turn. After the fall line, it hooks up. What does that what does that look like? It looks like almost that breaking edge set at the very end of the turn. It hooks up, and then the skier says, "Oh crap, I've got to make my new turn," right? So it's this really hard, heavy edge set. And then to make that new turn, because the skis have now tracked and they're moving in a direction where they probably don't want them to go, a direction that may take them back up the hill to some degree, the skier stands straight up, right? Rather than moving in the direction of the new turn, they have that oh crap moment, they come straight up, and then they move laterally to get towards the new turn, right? Sometimes they may make an extra movement. There may be a skid, a stem of one sort of another. Could be a step movement. It could be a brush movement. But now they've got to get to the new turn, so they've got to do something because they move straight up and they got to get over there somehow. Right? We also see that the skier may overflex the knees or the hips to get the skis on edge. And we see this particularly with newer skiers, right? Where they may really try to roll those knees or flex those knees or really bend at the hips to move their mass over to get their skis up on edge.
So a good one to add to the extra movements is probably something along the lines of a rotary push-off.
Yes, yes.
Where you do a quick edge set at the end of the turn so that you could literally push yourself to the other side. Stemming would be like, are you talking about at the top of the turn, aren't you? Yeah. Stemming or, yeah, something that would involve moving from getting to a new set, edge set.
Yeah, you'd have to stem at the top of the turn. Yes.
Right, yeah. Cool. Love it.
So just a simple picture of what an effective versus an ineffective movement looks like. I'm not going to beat this to death because we've seen the effective. The ineffective, we've all seen in our lessons. Again, going back to Gordon's presentation, here's the skis not having, the downhill ski not having enough pressure. And so the uphill ski has all the pressure. You can see there's a significant degree of divergence. The uphill ski is tracking on its edge and the downhill ski is not tracking. You see a lot of inclination banking taking place here. You can see that if I were to draw the reference angles, the pitch, the degree of the angle of the ankles is greater than that of the hips. as an example. And finally, when we talk about edging, what are some drills that we can use with our guests to get them to start to edge, to get them to use this fundamental that we talk about? Controlling our edges is through a combination of inclination and angulation. So I put together a couple of, and I could have put together some more, but I put together some static and some dynamic drills that we can use. Happy to hear from others what they might use. So for static, for never evers, I remember I was talking about the more we put our skis up on edge, the more we can turn. So I just show them, my never ever students, hey, this is what our edges look like. Do you see these shiny pieces of metal? See, our skis have a shape. I don't call it a side cut, but I show them, hey, doesn't this look like part of a circle? If I were to draw a pencil, I take a pencil and trace along the edge of the ski when it's up on edge. I could draw a big circle. Our skis want to turn in that circle. Standing across the hill, showing them how to tip their ankles, roll their ankles, tip their knees up the hill. Pour the water out of the top of the boot. Pour the hot chocolate, whatever you want. For maybe students that are a little more cognizant of their body or a little bit more further on in their lessons, you can talk about tipping the big toe and the little toe into the snow. Dynamic drills, side slips, hockey stops, garlands of lots of kinds, J-turns, for example, railroad track type garlands. Do railroad tracks, make it a game. How far can you ride the railroad up the hill? Right? Show them, look, turn back. Railroad tracks are great drills because you get immediate feedback. All you have to do is stop, turn around. Did you make 2 even cuts in the snow, or was one schmeary? More advanced, you can do things like leapers. Lots of stuff. What are some of the things that you guys use?
Duck walk, that really gets them thinking about their edges.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Definitely skates.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, skating for the more advanced. Yep.
yeah. For beginners, I definitely like the, side steps up the hill so they can experience edges. The great thing about edging, I think I said this in the first presentation, was we're almost always on edge. In some degree or another, we're almost always on edge. So, but we
Yep.
don't ever really experience it. We experience the platform it creates. Anybody got anything else?
That's it.
Everybody lulled the tears?
That was good. It's all good.
Oh, it was
Very-
good. I loved it.
Yeah,
Should I put more jokes in the next one?
Absolutely.
I'm trying to find a video that Russell Fleming made that's absolutely hysterical about edging. Let me see if I can get a hold of it. If not, I'll see if I can put it in the chat. I don't know if y'all know who Russell Fleming was.
I don't.
Okay, so Russell Fleming worked actually out of Killington and Liberty, and he unfortunately died just suddenly of altitude sickness when he was out in Colorado, which still blows my mind because he was this huge guy. And
I've never heard of a fatal case before. That's scary, isn't it?
I've never heard of anybody actually dying of altitude sickness, but unless you're like so high up that you.
well, I mean, he was up in Colorado. It wasn't that high. We were up.
The most you can do is 14,000 there.
Yeah, but he had been there before, and he had just come back from Utah. You know, I'm still can't wrap my mind around.
Ugh. Ugh.
But let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, so consultation age, that was really good. A lot of
Thank you.
stuff to stimulate the brain thinking about. Definitely put the slides up so we can
Yep.
share them with everybody.
So what, Chuck, what I'll do is I will send you that, and what I'll do is in one email, I will send the slide deck I just presented. I'll also send you the reference material from the New Zealand Ski Instructors Association
Yeah.
as well, from which I pinched a number of those diagrams.
Yeah, definitely do. Anytime that I may already have it, but I never know. I go through my folders all the time. I go, what the hell did I pick this up? It was like 3 years ago. And it's like,
Oh yeah,
this
I
would
do
have been
that
really,
too.
really nice to have, a couple of weeks ago. Like I ran across a Ron LeMaster presentation and was like, when did I get this? And it was from 2017. It was like, oh man.
Well,
It was talking about 4-aft pressure. I was like, oh, this has been really useful.
Well, after you and Gordon were talking about the ski to ski,
Yeah.
I went and I bought the book. I can't see it
Yeah,
because
you gotta have the book. You gotta have the book.
I got it from a used online dealer, and I'm glad I did.
He's
I got it too.
He's amazing, and his presentations were really, really good. Ron Kipp, I wouldn't call him always the greatest presenter, but he always had really good stuff. But Ron LeMaster was like, dang,
Yep.
always had something new and interesting to think about.
Yeah, I have the slides from, I had signed up for that last 3-session of skiing from the ground up or from the snow up.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if they are shareable, but if they are, I can
Oh,
try.
yeah. You can share any of the material that you got. I mean, if he's got the slides, I wouldn't mind having them.
I have no idea how to do that, but if at some point
Yeah, you can put it in the chat,
someone were to,
or you can just email it to us. I just have one last question. So what does tipping the skis feel like?
What does tipping the skis feel like? It,
Yeah.
I would, first I would ask, where are we tipping the skis from?
Yeah, well, it's level 1, level 2, so anywhere from the top to the bottom. What does that feel like? I've already kind of cheated and said something along the lines of you create a platform, you get the edge is what creates a platform, so you feel like you have a platform on which to press against or push against or stand on. That's kind of how I like to think about it too.
But
Giving
that's down,
me the image
that's
of
down-
on the side of their sock.
Yeah.
I like to feel my ankles stretching.
I'm always thinking about rolling my ankles,
Mhm.
playing
Yeah.
the piano kind of thing. Because, the ankles are so close to the snow, you get the greatest reaction out of your ankles.
Yep.
I don't think that's I don't think that's emphasized enough.
PSIA doesn't talk about that.
I
Which is
know,
really-
I don't understand why, because everybody else is like, well, the boot's a cuff and it doesn't allow movement. Well, that's just BS. Because moving the pressure from one side to the other is what creates that ankle movement in there, and which allows you to put the ski on edge. And you can physically see it in some of those videos that AJ showed, right? Where you can see, yeah, he is definitely getting more angle out of that boot than his shin bone is showing, right? So he's moved the cuff more angle out of the shin bone. That early edge angle really kind of is important.
Yeah, I would also ask the question, is there a difference between slightly tipping your edges on angle and really tipping your edges? I find it to be two totally different feelings.
Well, and it's like another question, right? How do we add and subtract edging? So if we incline this way, there's a limited amount of inclination we're going to have. So we got to kind of break to get more. I can't really bend my fingers this way, but we got to get a break in there somehow to get more edge angles, right? So if we just incline like this and then we break, we get more edge angles. And if we add all the sums of those edge angles, kind of like that Riley McGashin image where he showed all the little reference angles there, yeah, we get a tremendous amount of edge angle out of that. But I mean, and then you can take parts of that out, or you can take out little pieces of the sum and get less edge angles. But there's always a little bit of inclination involved. Does that make sense, Jeff?
Yeah, no, it does. I just find that, if I'm just tipping my skis on edge, I don't really think about it a lot. I just do it, I just roll them. But when I'm really gonna make turns, sharp turns, like I can feel the difference between, just getting them on edge and getting them on edge.
Yeah.
And I'm making sure that the front of my foot is really in, right? It's two different efforts, I think.
And the great thing about our bodies is that we have an ability to do that quickly and easily, right? On its own without having to think about it too much. And I ran across a photo recently, and it wasn't a Ron LeMasters, but it was like this guy who was like a rodeo clown, and he was dodging a bull, and it was like the perfect ski angulation where he was moving, stopping and moving to a different direction, and his ankles, knees, and hips and everything was angulated so he could move in a different direction as quickly as he could and create push off. And it was like, that's what we're looking at. Okay.
Right, I just put the Russell Fleming little ditty on the chat if anybody wants to look at it. It's like 3 minutes. And
Russell Fleming.
it's hysterical. It's on, I just put it on the chat. There's a link there if you open it.
It just comes up with,
Not the link I get.
Yeah,
oh, it's because I'm not logged in. I got to be logged in. Let's try this again.
I get a different video every time.
it just says Facebook watch.
In the link that Rebecca sent, there's a search bar. If you put in C. Russell Fleming, the first letter C,
Oh, C. Russell
Fleming.
Fleming.
And Rebecca, is it Pro Jam Boot Camp?
No,
That's,
I see. I don't know that I can, Anyway, I mean, I could see it on my chat. I don't know if anybody else can see it.
Here, go ahead and share it.
Can I share it?
Yeah. You gotta click the little green thing down there at the bottom. It says share screen. And then you can select where you want to put it.
We're making you a techie, Rebecca.
Okay.
There we go.
Look at
Wow.
her. Go, Rebecca.
All right.
Impressive, Rebecca. Doesn't she have to click something to share sound?
Oh, yeah.
Can you hear it or?
No, I can't hear it.
Let me see. Where would I see share sound?
It would be up in the view options. Oh, no, it's not there. Where the heck is it? They moved it.
Oh, wait, more. Share sound. Got it.
All right.
All right.
All right. This is the Smith family. This is the Jones family. Okay. This Jones man has been chasing that Smith woman for years. All right. And that Smith man has been chasing that Jones woman for years. All right. Okay. Now remember, these two can't date. You know why? That man and that woman can't date. You know why?
They're
What?
from the same family.
Right. What's that called?
West Virginia.
You love it, don't you? That's called incest, right?
Well, that's what she meant by West Virginia.
Exactly. I like that answer. West Virginia.
We all
That's
understood
incest.
it. That's what I
Okay,
understood.
now watch this. Okay, the woman in a relationship gives the direction. All right. Now watch what happens. She's over here. She says, Martin, we need to go to Home Depot to get me some flowers. Like, see, she's gone. She says, we're going. Look, see my foot? Look at my foot, Martin. Look. Now what's Martin gonna do? Okay. You're gonna come right along. Dave, I don't want to ski Pico today. I want to go to Stratton.
Nah.
And Dave says, okay. He can be all upset and fighting all he wants, but he's still going to follow her wherever she goes. All right? I see you recording. And anyway, so now for that part right there. So what happens is she's going to lead the way. Her job is to set the direction where you're going to go. His job is to follow. His job also is to carry the weight. Because guess what? Martin, we're here at Home Depot. I love these flowers. I want these towels. I want this stuff. I got all this shit.
Ain't that the
And
truth?
she goes and she hops her ass up in the SUV in the passenger seat. What is Martin
You
doing?
carry all that crap.
Right, Martin's carrying it. Martin's got to reach down there and lift all that shit up. That's the strength. So what do you do with that
I
mail
saw
toe?
that at Sugarloaf.
What do you do with it? And it was stolen, dude. They stole it from me. They
No,
told me they were
no,
going to
no,
steal
I
it.
don't mean that. I saw that at Sugarloaf.
Oh, somebody
the guy
did
was
actually
carrying
do it.
all the stuff back there. And then she went all the way to the car, waiting
Hopped
at
up
the
in the
car for him
passenger
to bring
seat.
it there. Then he puts the stuff down, wait for him to open the door.
And she
get
might
in.
even
I
drive.
said, oh my gosh. You got to be kidding me.
But Martin, what's the guy? So the guy's the strength. So that what we do with that mail toe, we push down on him. She says, we're going here. And he says, okay, he applies that strength. Bam! And you like, boom! Right? Don't tell me about skis. I cracked that. PSIA stole it and they loved it. All you hear about in PSIA, USSA, and everything else you're gonna hear is pinky toe or little toe. They just hate to say it because they know if they say wife toe or girlfriend.
Okay. Wow.
Clever illustration.
Yep. We all still here?
Yep.
We're all still here. So next, let's see, next weekend is July 4th, and we're going to meet the following weekend.